As for those who hoard gold and silver and spend it not in the way of God, give them glad tidings of a painful punishment, on the day when it will be heated in the fire of hell, and their foreheads, their sides, and their backs will be branded with it. This is what you hoarded up for yourselves, so taste that which you hoarded.
Greetings, dudes, dudettes, witches, wizards, and mystical muggles alike. This is Defense Against the Dark Arts, and I'm your professor, Dude the Wise. But please, just call me Dude. Our class today shall focus on defending ourselves against the blackness hidden in the twinkling light of our well-being, and we shall do this by consulting a plethora of magical sources, some of which are a bit off the beaten path. Indeed, the haunting opening words to this video come not from Middle-earth, but the Middle East. Yes, while no hobbits or dwarves can be found within Islam, trials by fire and also riches can. Over the course of the next several minutes, it shall be my aim to show you that while on different maps, there is indeed a profound connection between the religion of the Middle East and the lonely mountain of Middle-earth. Jumping in to the Hobbit, the Desolation of Smaug, Thorin Oakenshield re-enters his former home to reclaim the Arkenstone from the dragon within. Memories of chambers filled with golden light greet him in the dormant halls of the seventh kingdom of Durin's folk. Already it is setting in.
A sickness lies upon that treasure hoard. A sickness which drove your grandfather mad.
I am not my grandfather.
Despite his protests, Thorin is not himself, for the scent of Smaug is fire to the greed of dwarves. A fire that draws them in, not away, to the prospect of wealth, prosperity, power, and
gold.
The dwarf captain's eyes grow heavy with the perfume of his birthright, the further in he wanders. He wants the king's jewel. He wants it all. If friends stand in his way, his sword will stand in theirs. He is a reflection of the boastful beast crawling into his soul and over his stolen treasure. Dragon sickness burns in the Lord of Silver Fountains as the dragon burns his back. For years, Thorin's character has been tried by the absence of Erebor's bounty. Now it is being tried by the possibility of reclaiming it. Robert G. Ingersoll once said, "If you want to find out what a man is to the bottom, give him power. Any man can stand adversity. Only a great man can stand prosperity." He said this in reference to Abraham Lincoln, although the quote and its variations are often misattributed to the late president himself. But long before Ingersoll, Lincoln, Tolkien, Peter Jackson, or the West as we know it, this wisdom was being hammered out by the Arabs of Arabia. Given my fondness for wizard pipes and white Russians, it will come as no surprise to you that the dude is not a Muslim. But that does not mean he cannot appreciate one of the Quran's most striking statements, found in Surah 21, verse 35. "We try you with evil and with good as a test, and unto us shall you be returned." In Islam, the blessings of life are tests of faith just as much as the struggles of life. This notion is implicit throughout all of Jewish and Christian scripture, but to my knowledge, nowhere in the Bible is the concept articulated so succinctly and explicitly as in the Quran. Furthermore, I believe this articulation is valuable to all people of faith, and also to those without faith. To flesh out the philosophy behind the Muslim view of tests, allow me to read a few excerpts from the commentary in my study Quran concerning the verse we just read, and others like it, that explore this message. Encounters with both good and evil serve as tests of faith, since ease may make people overly exalted or forgetful, while adversity can make them despairing or ungrateful. One can be tried with sickness as well as good health, poverty as well as wealth, error as well as guidance. Or people are tried as to whether they will do what is obligatory and abstain from what is forbidden. The test by what is good is whether one will be grateful to God and be generous with what God provides, and the test by what is evil is whether one will be patient. The overall effect of these verses is to encourage detachment in relation to adversity and prosperity in this world, avoiding both bitterness and self-satisfaction, and to engender an awareness that the vicissitudes of earthly life are merely a divine test and do not necessarily reflect either divine pleasure or dissatisfaction. For the religious, whether they be Christians, Jews, Muslims, etc., the lesson here is broadly applicable. If you just got a raise, a new job, car, house, or other blessing of life, such as marrying the person of your dreams, give thanks to God, but don't take his blessing as an endorsement of all your thoughts and behaviors. Don't take it as proof that you're a noble person whom God approves of and who deserves all this grandeur. Don't take it as a reason to rest on your laurels, interrogate your soul no more, and forget the God who gave you it all. Instead say, this is a test no less treacherous than the test of hardship. For the irreligious, the lesson here is also applicable when put in other terms. Normal, simple folk who suddenly find themselves in the spotlight of fame and celebrity rarely survive as the decent human beings they once were. This tragic, stereotypical reality can in large part be explained, I believe, by the fact that most people who become famous either intentionally or unintentionally do not pause to recognize their circumstance as a test of their identity, who they really are, and so they lose themselves without even realizing it. In Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, Bernard Marx starts out as a lonely man of convictions who despises the decadence of his completely engineered society. He sees through the matrix of nonsense surrounding him and most especially hates the way his male acquaintances speak about women as nothing more than pieces of meat to be used. But then, all of a sudden, he finds himself the talk of the town, and all those precious convictions go out the window. By the end of the novel, he becomes a hollowed-out slut of a man who uses women like they're nothing more than pieces of meat for his meat. Marx lost himself because he did not realize the danger he was in when people finally started paying attention to him. He failed to see the test as a test. But setting aside fame and celebrity, we all know the story of the man in poverty who wins the lottery. Rather than living long and prospering on the beach, the money goes rather quick, and with it, whatever character he had to begin with, leaving him with nothing. Not even himself. So remember, whether you are religious or irreligious, life will send you tests that do not always appear to be tests. Therefore, your attitude should be that of constant vigilance, as one of my predecessors in the field of defense against the dark arts used to say. For not all that glitters is gold, and sometimes not even gold is gold. Returning to the middle chapter of the Hobbit trilogy, in the King's Hall, the king of Durin's folk faces the
King under the mountain.
And gives him glad tidings of a painful punishment. Smaug's forehead, sides, and back are branded with what he hoarded up for himself, and the taste of that which he hoarded stings like the fire of hell. Later in Lake Town, he tastes the death he hoarded and unleashed upon the people of Dale over a century past, and is brought asunder by a black arrow. Beneath his lifeless corpse, the miserly master of Lake Town, who consumed the wealth of the people falsely, also tastes that which he hoarded. Seeing how gold can swamp both dragons and men and be something entirely other than glittering treasure, one would think that Thorin, son of Thrain, now king under the mountain, would see the wealth of Erebor with warier eyes. But as the opening of The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies demonstrates, his eyes are only on the wealth of Erebor, while a town of innocent people burns behind him. The test stares him in the face, but he does not see it. Peter Jackson did a service to humanity by giving us the Lord of the Rings films. Few would say the same of his Hobbit trilogy. No doubt they are far inferior movies to their predecessors, but when you fast forward through the bloated filler sequences, the unwatchable love triangle, and choose to be charitable towards segments where the CGI is either overused or lacking in authenticity, you will find themes, lessons, and ideas just as remarkable as anything in The Lord of the Rings. With the character arc of Thorin Oakenshield in the latter two chapters of the Hobbit trilogy, I believe Jackson did a service to humanity. For through the mania of the Mountain King, he provides an example of how the test of plenty can be passed, even after individuals such as Thorin, or civilizations such as our own, have failed. Jumping back into the story, before long every soul in Middle-earth will know that Smaug is dead, and that the Lonely Mountain, with all its riches, is guarded by a measly sum of exiled dwarves. The ravens of Erebor are already returning to the mountain, and its foes are soon to follow, King Thorin knows. But what he does not know, whilst stomping back to his stronghold, is that while the dragon lies ruined in Lake Town, its spirit survives inside him, blazing and biting to go home to its horde. As does the now fully awakened spirit of Thror, Thorin's grandfather, who hoarded the gold of Erebor long before the dragon first came. Gold, gold beyond measure, beyond sorrow and grief, says Thorin the first time we see him lusting over his bounty.
Behold, the great treasure hoard of Thror.
In only a matter of days, Thorin has failed the test of plenty. His dragon sickness is in full swing. Dragon sickness, as defined by the film, is a terrible need, a fierce and jealous love for gold, prosperity, and power that deteriorates the minds of all who contract it, dwarves being the most susceptible, and is especially potent if an enormous dragon has only recently ceased slumbering upon the gold, prosperity, and power in question. In the days before Smaug, the disease overthrew the mind of Thror, and in the days after Smaug, it is, as we are seeing, rapidly overthrowing the mind of his grandson. Walls of stone go up immediately to guard the treasure of Erebor at Thorin's demented command. Meanwhile, the people of Lake Town have nothing, have lost everything, and are now camping in the barren city of Dale. But, like a robber in his hold, undeterred by this sorry sight, the king under the mountain fences himself in, disdaining any interest in helping them.
More stone.
He would rather have war than entertain the possibility of being generous to men and elves, who also need the resources of the mountain, even if it means breaking his word.
You gave us your word. Begone! Ere our arrows fly!
Luckily for Thorin, the people of Lake Town, and the elves also, there is a particularly brave burglar named Bilbo Baggins in the midst of this charged circumstance, who, upon first seeing the derangement of his master, chose for the Arkenstone to remain unfound, knowing that bequeathing the king's jewel to the king would only complete his lunacy. A lunacy that speaks not in the tongue of a dwarf, but in that of a dragon. The dragon.
I will not part with a single coin.
Indeed, Bilbo's choice to not only hide the Arkenstone, but to eventually smuggle it out of Erebor to the men and elves is what saved Thorin from becoming lost entirely. That, and also the crazed king's showdown with the ghost of Smaug himself, on the very gold that nearly drowned the beast. It is in this scene, while the battle of the Five Armies rages outside, that the king beneath the mountains penetrates the shadow smothering his soul. Whispers of kinsfolk he has spurned, folly he has spat, and the terrible truth of what his inheritance has transformed him into confronts him all at once. He has not been behaving like the noble heir to the throne of Durin, has not been seeing past his own desire. No, instead he has been betraying himself and others for the blind ambition of a mountain king named Thrall, not Thorin Oakenshield. He has been valuing gold above home, and has made his world a war-torn place. He is changed. He is the grandson full of the grandfather's madness, lesser now than he has ever been. He is Smaug returned to the Lonely Mountain. This treasure will be his death, he realizes while watching his future self sink into the same pool as the brooding serpent, finally understanding that if he continues on this path, he will taste that which he hoarded and die a dragon, not a dwarf. And so instead of falling for this trap till the end, Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thrall, casts down his crown, and with it his dragon sickness. He breathes a breath of fresh air as himself once more, hearing the words,
I am not my grandfather,
echoing throughout his entire being. After much confusion and internal turmoil, the King of Carven Stone has come into his own. The story of Thorin Oakenshield, failing the test of plenty only to then pass it in this most extraordinary way, is worth serious study. I believe the defense against the dark arts lessons here are of supreme value. Some may draw the line at the end of World War II, but for the purposes of our discussion, I shall draw it at the end of the Cold War, as such a line is closer to the birth of his dudeness. In the wake of the fall of the Soviet Union, Western civilization found itself in a similar situation to that of Thorin in the aftermath of the death of Smaug. Our physical dragon was slain, and in the case of America, which we will focus on here in particular, the gold, prosperity, and power of Earth had never been more within its grasp. Americans, and yes, the man of many men, my creator, Carter Brown, is a red, white, and blue-blooded American, felt that we deserved the right to rule the general affairs of the globe, not because we possessed the Arkenstone, but because we were the Arkenstone, the crown jewel of all nations to ever exist. The Islamic emphasis on blessings being a test would have come in handy during this blessed time, but alas, the good, grand, affluent future stared us in the face, and we failed to see the test as a test. Since then, the fruits of our failure have never been more apparent. Many Americans have become hoarders of green gold, like greedy dwarves possessed by dragon sickness, willing to sacrifice anything for just a little bit more dough or political influence, but I repeat myself. I would argue, however, that a less abrasive but no less deadly strain of the disease has infected the majority of us. In the Pixar film Wall-E, the people of the future sit around like vegetables all day talking to their technologies of convenience and hoarding self-satisfaction in their waistlines. This, I hate to say it, is the strain of dragon sickness that is slowly killing the bulk of us. I know of some Americans whose life goal it is to be the richest of the rich or the most powerful of the powerful, and will throw away all their morals and convictions for these ventures. But I know of far more who will sacrifice almost anything to attain comfort and an easy life. The dude clearly suffers from this temptation. I mean, just look at this cozy robe of snuggliness. As a consequence of these two strains of dragon sickness infecting Americans, the promised peace of our dominion has not materialized, and we are indeed in grave danger of tasting that which we've hoarded. Wars and rumors of wars are all about. The good whisper, the wicked shout. Since choosing the luxurious good life, decline has objectively set in. As Albus Dumbledore once said, humans do have a knack of choosing precisely those things that are worst for them. So, what are we to do? Where do we even start? Well, I'm glad that I asked. We start with the individual, for it is in the individual that the overall character of America and Western civilization more broadly is determined. For nations and civilizations are made of individuals. and live and die by them. This can be seen ever so plainly in the aforementioned Soviet Union. One of the biggest reasons that frigid country became the evil empire that it was is because its citizens and government officials from top to bottom fell for the trap that says, I'm just one individual. I can't change anything. Therefore, there's no point in standing up for the truth. This belief pathologized Soviet society and brought about lying on an unimaginable scale. Lying which led to inefficiency, rapid cultural degradation, and much less effective means of resistance against iron-fisted dictators, for neighbors were in the habit of lying about their neighbors. If the individuals of that sorry state had en masse believed from the beginning that they could make a difference so long as they were unwavering in their commitment to standing up for the truth, then history would undoubtedly be different. If a lying dictator wants to rule, then he must have individuals to rule over. But if all those individuals are willing to die for the truth, then a lying dictator is in a bit of a pickle. Therefore, if you, and I'm also pointing the wand at me, the pivotally powerful individual, have failed to see your new job, car, house, marriage, family, fame, or other blessing of life as a test, and as a consequence have fallen into an impoverished moral state, recognize that it is not too late to change your fate. In the words of the hippie wizard Alan Watts, you are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. The defense against the dark arts lesson here is that there is no shame in changing your path. In fact, there is only honor. You can, and we can, as a civilization like Thorin, cast down our crowns, and with them our dragon sickness, thus transforming ourselves from deluded doofuses into courageous heroes. In the first scene, after the king under the mountain slays his dragon within, we are provided with yet another lesson from the final Hobbit film. Thorin finds his most devoted followers and implicitly repents of all his wrongdoing by proclaiming that he has no right to ask any of them to follow him into battle. Seeing this humility in their redeemed leader, the dwarves all rise to join his charge. You see, when Thorin believed that the crown, wealth, and command of Erebor was deservedly his, he did not deserve it. But upon leaving the crown, wealth, and command of Erebor behind him, he suddenly deserves it all. The same is true for us. It is only by seeing ourselves as unworthy of our prosperity and power, our treasure, that we can ever hope to be worthy of it, ever hope to pass the test of plenty that we have failed for so long, to slay the dragon in our hearts and escape the curse we've made of our blessings. If you pray, the following text is an effective defense against the seductive allure of all we've been discussing when followed by Amen. It is a challenging passage, for while its wisdom is undeniable, its modesty is severe. The dude struggles to wrestle with it, but nevertheless finds it to be an edifying check on his desires and appetites. If you do not pray, I doubt you will find these words unfit to meditate upon. Reading Proverbs chapter 30, verses 7 through 9. 2 things I ask of you, Lord. Do not refuse me before I die. Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise I may have too much and disown you, and say, Who is the Lord? Or I may become poor and steal, and so dishonor the name of my God. In the 2025th year of this age, the shining kingdom of the West saw through the Smaug of its dragon sickness. This can be our tale. So remember, this is a test, and we are under no obligation to keep choosing the wrong answers.
Under gold I sleep, under mountain I creep, in the sky I fly, below they cry. Forgotten each age, my smile is rage. My teeth are swords, my claws are spears. My wings are a hurricane. I am prosperity's disregarded dragon. I am fortune's test.